What's going on, everybody? My name's John.
And I am Harry, and welcome to episode number 4 of Destination Talk with Paz and Harry. Once again, we come to you from Chop Studios, located at 750 Route 34 in Matawan, New Jersey. Today, we are joined by University of Cal lacrosse player Avery Hoeft. She is an attacker from Westfield, New Jersey. She graduated from Westfield High School. Some of her highlights was that she was a 3-year varsity player. One season, unfortunately, got canceled due to COVID. In her career at high school, she had 65 career goals with 45 assists for a total of 110 points. She was on 2 teams that won the North Section Group 4 title, both in 2021 and 2022, and she earned first team All-State in her senior year. Over at Cal, some of her highlights over the last couple of seasons, she has appeared in 12 games, registering 3 goals and 6 assists, and one of her highlight games came against Howard University, where she had 1 goal and 2 assists. Avery, thank you for being here and taking time out of your day. Welcome to Destination Talk. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
So appreciate having you in. First female guest on Destination Talk.
Mm-hmm.
So
awesome.
You have a distinct honor in that one right there as well. So, Avery, what attracted you to the sport of lacrosse?
Yeah, growing up, I played a lot of sports, including soccer, basketball, golf, and what I really loved about lacrosse was just the creativity of it. It was a nice, fast game that was physical, fun, a team sport. So I really liked just a creative sport where I could do something a little bit different.
So you mentioned you played other sports. So then at what time did you decide, hey, you know what, I'm going to focus on just one of these sports? And obviously it became lacrosse. So at what point in your career did you say, hey, I'm just going to do lacrosse?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it, I started playing competitively. I did club basketball, AAU. I did the AJGA for golf, tried that, and I really just connected with the girls on my team and club, and I really loved the sport for what it was, and kind of just put my marbles into that basket. Can't come like freshman years when I really went for it.
I think you would have had a good career in golf if I'm not mistaken. You did win something a few years back, did you not?
Yes. You
did win it.
I'll always have that, hopefully, but lacrosse, timing out in 2 years now, 2 more years.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast this has gone. We've been working together now for about the last couple of years, so it's hard to think that you're 2 years away from it all being over.
Yeah, crazy. When did we start working together?
It's been at least 2 years.
Yeah.
At least 2, maybe 3.
What about you?
5?
Yeah, we're at 5.
Yeah, 5 years.
We're at 5 years this year.
You're going to help me with my golf game, by the way, because I suck at golf.
I have no golf game, so any help
Even better. We'll get around it.
Any help would be welcome.
So, what do you think the most challenging aspect of lacrosse is?
Yeah, I think you need to have multiple skills when it comes to like agility work, right? You need to be able to be conditioned and get up and down the field, but also, have the quick tenses to get past your defender. So just like balancing all those different skills and combining that with like a stick in your hand is probably the hardest part.
So the work with Harry definitely really correlates to lacrosse, huh?
Yes, especially the wrestling drills as well.
The wrestling drills, yeah. We'll get into
the
that.
crossover. Yeah.
Hey, well, I love crossing over the different sports because, if we stay just with one sport, it gets boring. So, being able to bring basketball skill work or football skill work. I mean, you've been in the facility when those college guys were finishing up and you saw some of those, what the work we did there. And yes, we will touch on the summer work we did out on the football field where we had you doing some wrestling things as well. But we had John doing some lacrosse stuff. So
Cross training.
Sorry. The lacrosse training. Don't want no one getting upset with me. So, Avery, what do you think sets lacrosse apart from the other sports? And it certainly has been growing in popularity through the years. And what do you think is fueling that?
Yeah, one of the big things that was really exciting this past week was they actually just announced WLL. So they're now creating like a national league, kind of like the PLL. Definitely a lot of fandom coming from the game. I think it's just one of the fastest games on the field. It's exciting. Creative. You see things that you've never seen before. So I think it makes a really good watch, and also just the fans are extremely loyal. So getting new people, having that tradition, I think makes for, all this excitement around the sport, especially just in women's sports in general right now.
I know for me growing up, lacrosse wasn't a big thing, except I do remember the one team that always stood out was the Buffalo Bandits, and that was the major indoor lacrosse league. They basically played in hockey arenas.
That's crazy, yeah.
And but that was I watched a little bit. And you talk about fast sport. Well, when you're playing in a hockey arena with boards and you can get checked into the boards, and they're just playing on turf. Old AstroTurf on top of the floor was quite an impressive
Makes
sport.
it interesting, huh?
Yeah, it definitely was different. As a kid, like, what is this sport? But it looked like hockey, but they were running around.
Yeah. You ever try lacrosse?
Nope.
No, that wasn't for you.
I couldn't catch the ball in the
stick.
John,
No.
we established in episode number 3, John can't catch.
I can't catch it with my hands. I
Okay.
can't catch it with the stick.
Okay.
No. Maybe one day. I always want to learn how to do that when you like catch it like from the ground and
Oh, the ground ball.
yeah. I don't know. I always want to try that.
The one time I threw a lacrosse ball, it went backwards.
Oh, okay.
It went out. It went
goes out that way?
it
Well,
went
You
that
know,
way.
actually, there's a big crossover between Fogos and wrestlers. Like, so there's like face-off, go-off guys who do the face-off.
Oh, in the beginning when
a
they
lot of them start out to be
yeah.
wrestlers and have a crossover.
I can see
so
that,
maybe,
yeah.
maybe.
we have a career. Maybe.
You got that. You got that grappling background in the middle there.
Yeah. So Cal was in the Pac-12. Now they're in the ACC, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about the challenges it creates, balancing your academics, athletics, traveling over to East Coast, myself being a Division I athlete as well, I know a little bit about that, but you guys travel a lot more than me, I feel like. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think one of the big misinterpretations is that like the change the ACC was just football and basketball, right? But it's actually all sports. So all 30 sports at Cal are now traveling across the country. What makes it really unique is lacrosse is one of the sports that it's like going to the ACC is the top division, right? So I think it's going to be a great opportunity for our program to really see that talent grow as a program and get better. And I'm really excited for it. I get to play some East Coast games. I get to play against my friends that I grew up playing with. So I think it's going to be a really great opportunity for our program in the long run.
Helps mom and dad out a little bit too. It makes that trip a little easier as opposed to going across the country.
Yeah, for sure. And also just like from a playing standpoint, you're now being put into the most competitive place you can play lacrosse. Which is incredibly exciting as someone who is a college athlete, just looking to be better.
Well, and I think you can speak to that too also, John, because, just my opinion, I don't want to upset anyone, but I think the Big Ten is probably, if not the best wrestling conference in the country. So you're going up against the best of the best once you get into conference play. And I would imagine for you, Avery, when you start playing the Dukes of the world and those types of schools, that you're going to be going up against a much higher level of competition than maybe you might have been accustomed to playing against.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Big Ten wrestling is, like the ACC of lacrosse. But I love traveling whenever I go out with my team and stuff. But I always like going West Coast. Last year we went over to Cal Poly.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the best trips ever. But being able to balance all of it is definitely what makes Division I athletics a job.
For sure.
It's definitely challenging. It has its challenges. Avery, in your opinion, what are the most important skills that make a lacrosse athlete?
I think just like a willingness to try and adapt, to try new things is a big part of it. The game really changes over the past few years that we've seen. Like we now see like players like Charlotte North, Izzy Skane just ripping the ball from a lot further out, similar to like the boys' game. So the game itself is changing. So just as a lacrosse player, like being able to try new things and adapt is not only exciting, but it also makes your game a lot better as well.
You come from Westfield High School produces a lot of very good athletes. And I've been fortunate enough to train quite a few of them. One who's currently at Princeton University, fellow lacrosse player Cody Lamb.
Yes.
Cody, who's down there, and I think Jason Ferguson.
Okay.
I hope I got his first name right. But he speak to Westfield's creating a lot of good lacrosse players, because you guys do have a lot of good players that come out of that program.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a big program. Like I throw back to my coaches growing up. They were going to Stanford, Vanderbilt. Like there's always been like a tradition My 8th grade coach went to Georgetown. But there was actually a big dilemma that I had, was debating on whether to go to private school or not. And because I just love to play multiple sports, I liked the team environment. I thought we could do something really special at Westfield, and we did have that support. Love the girls that I kind of grew up with. Took on more of a leadership role, and we did make school history and got the farthest ever in program history, which is really awesome.
And the senior moment came back to me. It's Garrett Ferguson, not Jason. So I want to make sure I clear that up there. I don't want Garrett being upset with us.
Another thing you kind of talked about, you know, you were going to go to private school, but you end up staying at a public school. Same thing for me. Going into my freshman year or 8th grade year, private schools wanted me to wrestle for them, but I wanted to stay home and make history at my home school, my hometown. So I kind of connect that way a little bit, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and then same thing goes for the college level, right? Like, do you go to more of a private institution, or do you, you know, stay public, I guess? And, you know, I decided to go to Cal across the country, and it's been a great decision so far.
That must be, you know, hard. Like, you know, your family's here, you're all the way across the country. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I do make the trip quite back and forth a lot. I've already hit 7 times, gone back and forth this year.
Oh, jeez.
But, you know, I just looked at it like a flight. I think really any college I go to, it's travel's a travel. I love traveling. But yeah, some time zones, some layovers, you kind of get through it like anything else. But I guess just having the basic schedule to talk with your parents, or creating like those Sundays again has been very helpful.
Do you ever get like homesick at all?
I do and I don't. My parents are very good about coming out, and I'm very lucky to have that.
There you go.
Yeah, and your sister's at the University of Colorado, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So, again, to make these trips for mom and dad are getting a lot easier, because now they can make multiple stops relatively close to each other. So life is getting a lot easier for them. They're racking up the frequent flyer miles. For sure.
Getting points for that.
So, Avery, we've been training now for a couple of years, as we established earlier in the podcast. So what aspects of our training have you seen help improve your game?
Yeah. So originally when I started like getting ready for college, I was like, okay, I gotta like condition, I gotta be in shape. So I really prioritized just like, you know, just doing like stuff like the Man U that you have to be ready for. But what's really important is the actual skills. That's why you're being recruited. Anyone can just be in condition. So I think what we've really done a lot is just creating agility and that quick snaps off, you know, your first dodges, especially in the game of lacrosse. Like, getting by your defender is what's going to make or break, you know, a slide, a goal, an assist, or whatever. So kind of transitioning that mindset from conditioning to, you know, just power and speed has been probably the best thing that I've taken away from what we've been doing.
And I would think, too, the way our workouts are set up, there's an element of conditioning built into it, because we usually just go in some capacity. There's not usually too much wasted time in our training sessions. And I can attest, you're always asking me what's next. You know, water breaks don't really exist in our training sessions too often. When we train together.
I think also just understanding the why you're doing something is so important to just building the skill, right? And we talk about that a lot.
Yes, we do. And I think, and I'm very big on that. I think too many times coaches, speed coaches, however you want to title us, they'll tell athletes to do something, and the athlete doesn't quite understand why they're doing it. They're doing it because they're being asked to do it. And I've shared this with John too. I knew nothing about wrestling 5 years ago, and I know more now because I've been watching it a lot more, paying attention to it. But I would ask him questions. I would say, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking. How does this apply to your sport?" And we've created quite a few exercises from it.
Correct.
And some that have translated and gone over to other athletes, which we might get into right now, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, so this summer, Avery and I, we trained, once a week, twice a week?
We did twice a week the whole month of July.
Yeah, all on the Johnson football field.
Yep, in Clark, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Nice. Was it 7 a.m.?
7 a.m.
Nice early start. Yeah.
Well, it was funny because I was training their football team all July, and both of you got wind of that and were like, can we train before them? And I'm like, yeah, why not? You know, I'm already here. Might as well get up another hour earlier. What's that? Why not do that for a couple of weeks?
Avery, do you want to talk a little bit about the crossover training and kind of what we did this summer?
Yeah, so I mean, we started out doing, you know, like our basic speed work, agility's power. But what was really cool about the sessions is that me and John are very competitive.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you can't necessarily like make everything a game, but when you made it a game, like you saw there was a level of competition that was there. But it was also cool to learn new skills. See like what he was doing. I think we did like some figure eight stuff.
Yes.
I wasn't the biggest fan of the ones that we were on the ground,
Oh,
but
the burpee rollovers and
Yeah.
the down block exercises. Yeah, those were
yep,
fun.
yep, those were fun.
They're fun to watch.
Especially us, like, oh my god. But made for some really good memories, and I think when you do train, it's always better to train with someone who's going to challenge you. And so that was a big thing from this summer is like, yeah, I got to show up for John. I got to show up. And so
Accountability.
we did get after it quite a bit.
Yeah, we got a lot done in those sessions. Right after, Avery was done, I was, running back around to get mine, then she was chasing me. So it was, just that constant, competition the whole
I
time.
think there was just one occasion where the movements didn't really apply to both of you, and you were doing one specific thing and you were doing another. But I think what I have learned through the years in training is that these exercises do translate. And I'll tell my athletes this all the time. There are exercises that we do for specificity to your sport. There are exercises that we do that are very similar to your sport, and then there are activities or movements that are for athleticism only. And I think there has to be an equal balance of all three, because if you're just training specificity over and over again, it becomes boring. And if you're not training for different variables that could come up or athleticism, you're becoming a one-dimensional athlete as opposed to a multi-dimensional athlete. And I think that's something that people could benefit from greatly.
For sure.
Yeah. So when did you realize, I wanted to go Division I and play Division I lacrosse?
Honestly, like I've always had like my big dreams, and I think growing up, just being a kid who loves sports, it was always a dream to play a sport in college. Then once I kind of like chose lacrosse, I knew that that's something that I really wanted to pursue, which is just a matter of where. So I think it was about like, I've always like thought about it like since like 4th grade, but I didn't realize it was actually possible until probably like 7th or 8th, because I knew I had the work ethic. And I think that was the big thing, is like just believing in yourself and kind of knowing that you can do it. That willpower was a lot, especially over COVID. That's a whole other segment. You really saw who was dedicated and who weren't.
Well, we found out.
as
Yeah,
much.
we were at Colonial High School 3 days a week from May till right up to August.
Yep.
Yeah.
6, 7 in the morning.
Training on certain sides of the field for the shade, and trying to we figured
Mask
out
on,
we figured out when
yeah.
the sun was going to be where, so we could be off the field at that time.
Yeah, Harry needed to wear the bucket hat, so he didn't get sunburned. But never mind.
Hey, listen, I don't have much up here anymore. I got to protect that. Definitely was worth it. Well, I can definitely speak to your hard work and effort, because there were many times I met you at a previous facility, and I would pull into the parking lot and I would see this individual throwing a lacrosse ball up against the concrete wall, and before I got to know who Avery was, I was like, okay, that's quite impressive. At first I wasn't sure what she was doing, but then I realized it. But then as I got to know you, I realized that you have a fierce level of competitiveness in you. That's something that, in my opinion, is not taught to people. That is something that you ultimately learn. You have it within you, and I should say it's hard to teach that to people. It's something that comes from within you. If a lot of people just had that in general, I think they would find success a lot easier.
Yeah, Avery is definitely a competitive. She would try to beat me on every sprint, So.
Well, you're not the fastest one in the world, so
that's why
it's not too hard. I think it forced you to run a little faster.
Yeah.
But I do think that's a space that's definitely neglected a lot, like with social media and stuff. I think a lot of, I've always been a big proponent of, do the hard work when no one else is watching.
Train in the dark.
Yeah, and I do think it's a big part of who you are, and just being dedicated to yourself. Creating those habits are really, really important to getting better.
Well, character is, developed when you're doing things. It's easy to be someone in front of people. It's another when you're doing the same things when people can't see you. And that training, you don't train when the bright lights come on. That's your time to perform. You're training when the lights are basically off.
Yeah.
when no one can see you, so that when the switch does get flipped, you're able to go out there and give it your best effort, win or lose.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about a coach or a mentor who had an impact your lacrosse career?
Yeah, my club coach, Sam Warner, she was just a great coach because she believed in me when not necessarily other people did. And I guess having that support and trust really pushed me to be better and reassured my confidence. And she was a great coach who, if I wasn't performing, she made sure I knew it. Very straightforward. And I really respected just who she was as a person, as a coach. And I'm very thankful for that.
It's important to have people like that in your life, because this journey of being an athlete can get very lonely at times, and you need to have certain people in your corner that you can rely on and go to, who or will always have your back, good or bad, but will never abandon you. They don't jump ship when the going gets tough, and I think that's important to have that. I think all athletes should have that.
Well, it's a great skill that carries over right to your career, just in life in general.
It does.
Is like, you do have to surround yourself with the people who are gonna make you better, who are gonna push you, but also support you, through the thick and thin. And that's why I really do love sports. Is just all of that crossover that you can bring into your everyday life.
I think that's the one aspect of competing that I miss. Is putting on a uniform, being in the locker room with my teammates, and that camaraderie that you get. And I think that's one of the reasons why, I guess, where are we going on? 14 years now, to be in a couple of months, 14 years ago, that I made the switch to get into this profession, because I felt for me it was the closest I was going to get to that again, training. And, who knew 14 years ago that it would evolve into having wonderful people such as you two at this table, who I've worked with and had the pleasure of training, and the many others. But I think that's, if I miss anything about competing, it's that.
Yeah.
It's being in that locker room with those like-minded individuals who are leaving it all out there like you.
Yeah. I'll flip it to John. Like, how does it look like now when you start coaching? Right? Like, isn't it weird how you look at your sport differently when you start coaching?
Yeah, you look at like the little things.
Yeah.
I've been, helping out coaching at Yale Street Wrestling Club. I do clinics all over. So kind of taking it from a different perspective and looking at your sport, I do this sometimes, I do this sometimes, but let's just go back to the fundamentals sometimes. It's definitely different.
Basics.
There you go.
Basics.
Basic ladder drills. Harry loves ladder drills.
I've said my training is boring. You guys might not find it that way.
We
but
make it fun.
Yeah,
we make it fun.
I label it as boring because I think if you don't have that foundational base underneath you, it's hard to grow from there and to go up from that. I think we get caught up, too many people get caught up in the viral video and expecting someone to do something that they have no business even attempting, when the reality is that 1 + 1 still equals 2 as far as I'm concerned. And math is not your best subject either.
Not my
We're getting it all
suit.
out there. But but you're still just doing what you need to do, and I think that's what sometimes gets lost amongst all of the noise. So my next question is how do you handle the expectations of being a Division I athlete? Because it's a job.
Yeah.
It's a job, especially when you're at a big time school and you've got to travel, you've got to maintain the grades. We'll get into a little bit about what you're looking to do after school, and but it's, how do you handle that? How do you keep it all in perspective?
Yeah, I mean, what's hard about Division I sports is it's one of those things I think John can relate, is that you don't really know what you're getting yourself into until you live the life.
Right.
And what's really powerful, especially when you're on a team sport, is I have 30 other girls doing it with me. And it's incredibly fun to be pushed every single day, and know that they'll always have my back. So managing the expectations, honestly, I'm just getting excited. I kind of have the gratitude angle that I get to do this every single day with people that I love, and at the same time get better as a person and an athlete. And so that's kind of how I've always looked at it.
So kind of, for me, when I was, picking where to go to school, I wanted to, like the guys on the team, like the, school I'm going to, the environment, the coaching staff. Talk a little about that, why, that decision going to Cal and kind of what you just talked about a little bit there was so important.
Yeah. I think going across the country to a school like Cal, right, I really valued academics, athletics. I love football. And I guess that was kind of the good medium is like I always knew that I could go back to Jersey, right? I could go back to the East Coast if I wanted to. Why not go try it out? And it's been really, really cool. I think one of the unique things about Cal, too, is most of the athletes are actually international. So a lot of my friends and the people that I've just met were people that I would never meet, had I stayed on the East Coast. So I did think that Cal was an awesome fit. It was in a Power 5 school. I could still play the sport that I love at a very high level and now an even higher level.
Right.
So, going to a place where I continue to push myself on all fronts, whether that be social, academic, and athletic, that kind of just matched for me.
And if you wanted to play golf, the weather was a lot nicer, much longer than it is in New Jersey.
Yeah,
Yes.
golf here is a couple months.
Yeah. But you actually did you not, if I'm wrong, please correct me, but you did an internship with the LPGA, if I'm not mistaken?
I worked for the Women's U.S. Open at
Okay.
Pebble Beach under the USGA and basically spent a summer at Pebble Beach, which was one of the most best putt courses. And it was a great summer.
So that's how you get good at golf.
A little bit.
Hanging
I've been playing
around
since I
the
was
best.
like 4.
Hanging around the best.
We might need to take a bet up on
Oh,
this
geez.
on this match.
Hey, listen, I'm all for just showing up. I'll eat the cookies you brought, and I'll just sit back and enjoy the show that you guys put on.
So, Avery, what does life look like after sport, after lacrosse? What are we thinking?
Yeah, so I've always been on like that next level, like what's next. This summer I'm going into investment banking, so I'll be living in the city. Same thing, very competitive, fast, but when I think more long term, I think I really want to do something that is gonna create a lot of change and have impact in what I do. Seeing the women's sports take off, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So just kind of see how this summer goes. Have the skills like anything else, have the basics, and then I'll move up from there.
What's the outlook for the team this year?
Yeah, this year, so heading into the ACC, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, like, my schedule release or what, but...
We don't want to get you in trouble. This episode will be coming out soon, but it might be before the release, so we don't want to say anything.
But, yeah, we're headed over to the East Coast, obviously. Still playing some Pac-12 teams. We are a new team, a lot of young players, but we are also very bought in, excited for... what this change has in store for us. And I do see a lot of potential within our program. So to get to do it with this kind of group of girls, I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I'm excited also because now that you're in the ACC, the ESPN app has the ACC network, so we'll be able to watch more of your games this year, which is something I enjoy doing. So that'll be great. We'll be able to put that onto facility, or when I'm sitting in the living room and Dana comes up to me and says, "What are you watching women's lacrosse for?" I was like, that's one of my athletes right there. So that'll be fun to do.
Avery, do you think you'll live in the West Coast or the East Coast down the line?
That's a tough one. I just did the West Coast. I think I'll do New York for a few years, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But the weather's so nice.
It is.
You don't like the cold here?
No.
It's challenging. I just why I fell in love with Phoenix. I've been out there 5 times, and every time I go out there, I get one step closer to not wanting to come home.
Yeah, but there is something to be said about your New Jersey deli, the bagels, the pizza. You can't replace it. I can't tell my teammates. I'm like, you just don't get it. You don't get it.
No, there's a lot of truth to that, and there's no destination dogs out on the West Coast that I'm aware of. So
no, shout out Destination Dog.
Yes,
hot dog place in New Brunswick.
That's our spot.
Yes.
So, you spoke about a lot of different things, but what motivates you every day to get up and put one foot in front of the other?
I think just wanting to be better than the next day that's in front of you.
That 1% rule?
Yeah, I mean, I've really lived by that, and just like the motivation, I do really buy into, that positive self-talk. But I think just wanting to get better, having big goals, being, daring, is really exciting to me. I love that adrenaline, and to do that in like a team environment, make other people better at the same time has been really exciting.
I know you are an avid reader. We have shared stories of the books we've read. So have you read anything good lately or in the midst of reading anything?
What am I in the midst of reading these days? No, I think the last book that I was looking over was Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Yeah, it's a very good book.
He's a little bit of a crazy man, don't get me wrong, but he has some good stories in there.
Yeah, they're out there, but they're very motivational. You talk about discipline, and commitment, as we were speaking about in the past. I just finished reading Malcolm Gladwell's Revenge of the Tipping Point.
Okay.
So this was a book that he, instead of doing the original book called The Tipping Point, came out 25 years ago, which was a fascinating book then too. And instead of kind of adding an extra chapter or a different forward, he chose to write an entirely new book.
Okay.
So he definitely, I have the book in the car. If you'd like it, you're more than welcome to take it home with you. It's that he definitely, if you enjoy reading, I would certainly go check that out. I don't get anything for it other than the enjoyment of saying that I enjoyed the book.
Harry's got me reading a book right now. Naval, I can't say his last name.
Oh, yeah, Naval Ravisank. Yeah, we're screwing names up big time on this episode.
I'm halfway through that. It's pretty good. I like
yeah,
that book
I
a
told
lot.
you, it was very fat. It was a very good book. I learned a lot from it. But, so, to our listeners who are out there in the world there, what advice can you offer, both as an athlete, as a student, and beyond?
Yeah, I think just you should have big goals for yourself, and that your schedule should dictate your priorities, right? So if I do my schedule every single morning, and I have my goals up there, and just every single day wanting to push to get better, your schedule needs to match that if that's where you want to go. And that complemented with like surround yourself with, the right people, the people that are going to make you better, that are going to support you. Even if it's a small circle, I do think that's really important to get you where you want to go.
Go ahead.
You're good.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say that's like what this podcast is all about: finding your destination, finding, getting to your goals, and learning about other people's journeys. Today we got to hear Avery's journey, so I think that's the prime example of what we're looking to talk about here.
Yeah, and what I would add to that is two Division I athletes sitting at this table. A lot of individuals have these aspirations and visions of wanting to play Division I sports, which are great.
Yeah.
But I don't know if many people realize just what it takes. There's a lot of time, effort, and work that has to go into being a Division I athlete, and there's certainly nothing at all against the Division II athletes, the Division III athletes, the JUCO athletes, because they're working just as hard with the hopes of potentially maybe moving up to another level. But it's you have a full-time job as a student, you have a full-time job as an athlete, and you have to be able to put in that time and effort. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that.
But I think it has to come from you, right? Like you got to be ambitious, you got to want it, but definitely dream big when it comes to those things. Because if you're willing to put in the work, and you get to do it with a bunch of people that you love, it's really rewarding and exciting, and I really encourage people to do that.
Which is the fun we have here doing Destination Talk.
So much fun.
Every so often when we get in here. Well, Avery, we want to thank you for coming in and taking time. I know you've recently just flown back from the West Coast, so you're home for the holiday. But that is a wrap for episode 4 of Destination Talk with Paz and Harry. We look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.